We are the Org. Our mission is to assimilate Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and beer. Lots of beer.
Hello, friends!
Hello!
And happy Christmas Eve, a time of recording.
So, by the time you get this, happy Christmas?
Yeah, I guess so, yes.
Yeah.
This, my friend, is bOrgCast 6.20.
Or more importantly, Christmas bOrgCast!
Christmas, fa-la-la, Kahless Christmas. More of which later.
Yes.
News time! Okay, so the director for the next Star Trek film has been announced.
It's not Jonathan Frakes.
It's not Jonathan Frakes, no. I'd say a boo, but to be honest, meh. It's somebody called Justin Lin, who has directed 4 of the Fast and Furious films.
I've seen none.
Yes, out of, I think it's about 6. So we're doing pretty well there, avoiding those. But I think the idea, as the title would suggest, that they're like supposed to be action-packed, no time to catch your breath type things, which doesn't really bode well because...
That's what they tried in Nemesis. I remember reading in SFX at the time, that's what they were going for in Nemesis, and what a pile of wank that was.
And the first reboot Trek film I saw was very much, it was all action-packed and stuff and completely missed the point of Star Trek, so it doesn't bode awfully well, but you never know.
I liked the first one.
Let's not go over that ground again. There's talk of the producers wanting to capture a Guardians of the Galaxy vibe, which is...
What, by making Kirk into Star-Lord? How are they going to do that? Who's Rocket Raccoon? Is Spock I Am Groot? I mean, it's just, no, he doesn't...
I think it was Simon Begg Scotty last time, wasn't it, really? But yeah, it's not really a good vibe for Trek.
It doesn't work.
But, you know, this is just rumour and bollocks and stuff, and should people I trust go and see it and enjoy it, I will go and see it, but otherwise I'll be giving it a wide berth, as I did the last one. We had a bit of general feedback from our friend Dominica,
Hello, Dominica.
Wishing us a Merry Christmas.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
We wish you a Merry Kahless. We wish you a Merry Kahless and a Happy New Garon. I don't know.
You're struggling, aren't you?
Slightly.
Yes. You missed something really, really important in the news.
What did I miss?
I is on tumblers.
Oh, yes. Yes, a bit of bOrgCast news, I suppose. Yes. If you want to follow Amri on Tumblr, you can do so now. For she is it bOrgCast Ammo?
Yep.
On Tumblrs, yes.
I has posted one picture
Hurrah!
and reblogged a few things.
There we are. Welcome to the world of cats and gifts. Righty, shall we get started on Rightful Heir?
Why did you go all strange accenty?
I do that from time to time, and I'm reaching that time of year where just sheer tiredness is making me hyper, so just to warn you, okay?
Ah.
Perhaps recording this on Christmas Eve wasn't a good idea, but there we are. We shall find out.
You chose the time.
I didn't really. It had to be this week.
Could have been yesterday.
Could have been, but then there'd been even less time for people to get feedback in, and thank you to everybody who's managed to squeeze the feedback in. Hurrah!
The greatest Klingon warrior of all time returns.
I want you to have a place at my side as we restore honor to our people.
But Worf is trapped between 2 leaders.
It will be glorious. It will be war.
Now he must stop a battle for supreme power.
We are Klingons!
To save the entire Klingon Empire from civil war. Next time on Star Trek The Next Generation.
Rightful Heir, that trailer did make it seem a little more exciting than it actually was.
Yes.
But more of that later.
Yeah, okay. So, I liked this little bit, which is Data ending a night shift and welcoming the day shift. I like the callback to...
Yeah, no, it's good.
Is it Data's Day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the Data's Day.
On the Saviour's Day.
No! We did that at the time. Don't you not this time of year. Do not fucking earworm me with Cliff fucking Richards. Or you will lose that beer when I tickle you.
I won't invoke the cliff again, I promise.
Don't.
Cursed be his name.
Yes, or something. Anyway. Worf was supposed to be on the day shift and he hasn't turned up. He's not replying to Biddly Bips. And
Biddly Bips, is that what we're calling them now?
It's
We've gone from Titty Taps to Biddly Bips.
Sorry.
Okay.
He's not replying to the Biddly Bips and he's not answering his door. And when Riker forces entry...
Fnar. Sorry. You don't want Riker forcing entry on you, I tell you.
Oh dear, that sounds like a really bad slash novel.
Oh, it does, doesn't it?
Worf's on the floor by a fire and it looks like he's getting stoned.
It does. He's off his gourd, bless him.
End teaser.
Yes, bit of a weird teaser, that one.
It's a bit, yes.
Our resident Klingon is stoned. Bam, bam, bam.
And then we have Worf on his bed, but he's in sort of full uniform. And Picard comes into his quarters to discipline him. And you get a callback to Birthright, where Worf is explaining that, ever since then, he's not really been right. He's effectively having a crisis of faith.
Yep.
And Picard is, sympathetic, but when he looks down at the fire thing, he does have a nice line. It's a pity you didn't try the holodeck instead of setting fire to your quarters. Which I like. And what he does is he puts Worf on leave and then says, I expect you to perform your duties when you return. And I like this, and it's something that comes up here and there throughout the episode, that Picard's, and I suppose you could read the Federation's attitude to faith is, it isn't something they have, but it's something they respect in other people.
Yep, and he's willing to give him time to explore it. Yep.
Yeah, I like that.
It's a nice bit of pastoral captaining, I think it's fair to say. Although, in a way, it's a shame this wasn't Troy, who features not in this episode. So it would have made more sense for Troy to be doing this, but never mind.
Yeah, but the captain's got discipline in that.
He does, yes, and he does it in a pastoral way, so that's good.
Yeah. So then you have Worf on, I will keep wanting to call it Borat, which is that really...
Borat! Shit, no, it's Boraf.
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, Worf's on
Now
Borat.
I'm imagining Worf wearing one of those mankinis. Oh!
But then you think of his face in front of the fire, wouldn't explain a lot.
Oh, dear.
If it was riding up.
As it is, those robes he's wearing are not a good look for him.
No, they remind me of Arthur Dent's dressing gown.
Yeah, do a bit, yes.
But
The
no,
monastery looks quite good, even though it's blatantly a matte painting.
Yeah. But no, Worf's in front of the fire and it looks like he's straining.
He looks like he is pushing out a big one, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's because he isn't having his prune juice.
Maybe, yes, he's missing his prune juice for his diet.
Oh, dear. And then some 19-year-old has a vision of Kahless and Worf doesn't, which really pisses him off.
Yeah.
He's about to leave and he gets told you've got to open your heart to Kahless.
Kahless wants you for a sunbeam.
Yes.
Yes, this is Koroff, who's kind of the Archbishop of Klingonese, played by a chap called Alan Oppenheimer, who will return as a Federation captain in Season 2 of Deep Space Nine. It's not going to turn out well, but I'm not going to say anything more than that.
Okay. He talks about there's a star over there. It reminded me of Peter Pan.
Yes, yeah, second star to the right, that's where Kahless will be turning up, yeah.
Yeah.
But somewhere in my heart there is a star that shines for you.
She's there.
Yeah. But this whole scene was, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Worf decides to stay, and he's back at the fire, and Kahless appears and wants a hug.
As if by magic. Yes, he does. He holds his hands out. Hug me. He's played by Kevin Conway, who was played one of the generals in 13 Days, which is a film we've seen.
Yes.
He doesn't look much like Kahless did when he appeared in the original series, but then again, Klingons have changed a bit since the original series days.
Yeah.
He looks more like the Klingon Santa, to be honest.
Well, he's all in white fur, isn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah, it really does look like
Actually,
Santa.
I'm afraid, particularly when he appeared while asking for a hug, he really reminded me of a Care Bear.
All right.
But with his brain showing.
Okay, nice. Well, I put a picture up on Tumblr when I was trailing the fact we'd be covering this tonight, and Ravenmore on the Tumblr said that Klingon Santa probably beats the shit out of you if you ask for anything other than glory to the Empire for Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, actually, off and on throughout this, the head ridges on Kahless really bothered me. They did look just like a brain to me.
Actually, they look like a spinal cord to me.
Or something, just
Yeah,
something
they're quite distinctive
icky.
to give them their due, and quite icky as well. Yes, yeah, fair enough. I mean, it looked a bit different, so that's good.
And then you have, I know it's designed like this, but this whole scene that I'm about to explain just reeks of setup. He comes and goes, does anybody know the story of this sword? And somebody goes, no, it isn't written down. And then the high priest goes, no. And then he tells some bollocks about his hair catching fire in lava. And then the bloke goes, oh, it must be you, because only the clerics know the story of the sword. And it's like, if you did not see setup in that scene, the way it's played, it was just like, yeah.
Yeah, but it is a setup, so that's okay, actually.
Well, yeah, but they could have played it with more intrigue so that it kept the viewer guessing. As it was just like, for me, it was like neon flashing setup, really.
Okay.
But then you get the odd scene. It doesn't really fit with what comes later. Which is, you've got Worf in his chambers, or whatever you're calling it, on the monastery. In his cell, I suppose.
Yeah.
And Kahless is talking to him. And talks to Worf about a vision he had as a kid.
Yeah, now, but on the basis that Kahless later turns out to be a replicant, basically, with inserted memories, how could they inserted this memory that was only known to Worf?
Exactly, it doesn't fit.
This actually makes it out like he is the real Kahless, which actually isn't where the story's going.
No, it doesn't.
Very odd.
Yes, it's very odd. The only thing I could think is that, bearing in mind that later on you have Kahless talking about how pure Worf is, and it's something that comes up more in the deleted scenes, it does make you think that this...
The problem is that that's just making me think that he should have been prayed by Brian Blessed.
Oh, he should have been.
You're so pure! And if you don't know
yes.
what that's about, do watch the Brian Blessed commentary on Flash Gordon,
Yes.
which is just a thing of wonder.
It is, but do the drinking game. Drink
Every time he says the word
pure.
yeah, you will get absolutely off your face. In fact, don't do that, you'll end up in hospital. We
didn't. But no, with the deleted scenes in particular, ramp up this idea that he was designed to appear to Worf, that this is part of the scheme. And so I did wonder whether Worf had told a cleric at some point.
Maybe he'd gone to confession and said, I saw Kahless when I was a nipper or something. Yeah, maybe.
I mean, it's stretching it a bit.
You have to
be
insert
fair,
an awful lot, don't you, to make this work?
Which is why it makes it a bad scene.
Yeah.
But it did make me wonder. And then my note just says Kahless's head bump looks icky. And then Worf is still disbelieving, and Worf and Kahless fight.
Fight, 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 fight!
Yeah, there's a couple of quite fun fight scenes, which just about makes up for the fact that this story is very talky. There's lots of talking in rooms.
Yeah.
And when they start picking up a bat'leth and going at it, it's like, yes, some action at last.
Yes. And basically, it looks like Worf is winning, and then Caleb stops to have a laugh.
Yeah. It's a bit feeble. It's a bit like, what was his name in Suspicions, the Klingon, who headbutted Data, ended up the other side of Tem Ford, and then made out that was what he was planning in the first place. Ha ha ha!
No, that wasn't Suspicions, that was...
Which one was that?
Oh, I don't know, but another one you mean. He was called Nudak.
Nudak, that's right, yes.
Oh, buggery bollocks. You'll have to...
Oh, The Chase.
Yeah.
The Chase, that's that one, yeah.
Yes, it is a bit like that, really.
I meant that all the while. I meant for Worf to kick my butt. Ha 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 ha! Yeah, right.
Yeah. So then you have the Enterprise transporting Kahless to the Klingon homeworld. And they're in the observation lounge, and it's just kind of discussing what Worf has found out so far, because he's allowed to tricorder scan Kahless. And Data's asking Worf how he'll decide if he's Kahless or not in the absence of empirical data. And Worf's like, it's not that sort of question, but I'm not quite sure how I can help you at the moment. And then my notes say, nice ship, do I have that?
Yes.
Because it's the Klingon ship, and the answer is yes.
This is Vorcha, yeah.
Yeah.
We see a lot of it in this story, and it's very nice.
Very nice. Shiny.
Shiny ship.
And then you have Gowron, who is...
Yes, and now it really does pick up when Gowron turns up.
It does.
Because he's not best pleased, needless to say. He's been usurped. He's basically King Herod in this, isn't he? If we're going to go down the Christmas route.
Yes, okay. And my notes sarcastically say he's measured as usual.
Yes.
And as you put it, he's not full of the Kahlessness spirit.
No, definitely not full of the Kahless spirit.
And then there's made reference to... I've got it down as the Sword of Chiron, but I'm not sure I got that right.
Yeah, and it's a dagger anyway. It's very bizarre. But yeah.
Yeah, well, anyway. There's some of Kahless's blood on it, so they do a test on Kahless's blood and this to see if it's the same. The answer is it is, and Worf now believes. Then you have, because Worf now believes that this guy is Kahless, you have them having drinks together with purple mugs.
Yes.
Like the purple. And Worf is apologising for the fact that it's not like real Warnog.
Yeah.
And,
Warnog sounds wonderfully Christmassy. It's like eggnog, isn't it?
Yes, it's Warnog! It's the eggnog you drink when you're about to fight.
Yes.
It's Warnog.
Yeah, because eggnog would just make you really crap at a fight. Just be really bloated and just let me sit down for a bit. Hang on.
I got really ill on eggnog once.
Well, it's horrible stuff. You're not supposed to fucking drink egg. That's the bottom line. It's madness.
That is
You
really...
United Statesians and your crazy
No,
ideas.
it's not United States.
Oh,
It comes
God,
from Europe.
I was going to say, don't tell me we invented it. Oh,
No,
dear.
I think it originates in Holland, and I went on German exchange to a part of Germany that borders Holland,
Uh-huh.
and it wasn't quite Christmas, but I think it would have been November-ish.
Right.
So they sort of broke out the eggnog and we exchanged some presents, and I
Right.
did not know what this stuff was.
I bet.
I was quite ill the next day.
Yes. Anyway, warnog, not eggnog.
No, sorry.
Although appropriate enough. Kahless says to Garon,
Do not stand before the wind.
Oh, I've had eggnog. You
Yeah.
just don't know, man. Anyway, Kahless wants Worf at his side, but then you find out that apparently Koroth, who's the high priest involved in all of this, always opposed Gowron. Gowron wants Worf to oppose Kahless. Worf asks Gowron to open his heart. Oh,
what a friend we have in Kahless.
fucking hell. Help me!
Oh, he is, isn't he? He's basically the Klingon Jesus. Except being Klingon, of course, ain't about loving your neighbour but kicking their ass.
Yeah. And then you get this amazing scene where, as you've already referenced, you've got this, do not stand before the wind thing. He's talking about a guy who stood before the wind. And Gowron's like, what was his name? How tall was he? What colour were his eyes? It's just, So then Gowron fights him.
Fight, 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 fight!
And wins.
Hurrah for Garon!
And laughs.
Yes.
Because he's supposed to be the greatest warrior that ever lived.
But you've got to go... I mean, that's Garon's style, isn't it? Okay, so this is the Klingon Jesus. Let me kick his ass and let's find out, shall
Yes.
we? Oh, no, it isn't.
Yeah. And then you get Worf just totally ripping Koroth a new one.
Yeah, he doesn't beat around the bush, does he?
No.
You were not awakened until we transported you into the cave, and you appeared to Worf. Before that time, you were unconscious in a laboratory, where we accelerated your growth, corrected any genetic anomalies that occurred, gave you the wisdom and memories that...
They grew you in a test tube like some kind of fungus and programmed you like a machine.
You are twisting the truth!
You talk to me of truth. You who have brought to life this lie and called it Kahless.
It is not a lie. Genetically, he is Kahless, and he is needed by our people. You know better than anyone the corruption and dishonor that is destroying the Empire. They need him.
They do not need a false god.
How do you know that this was not the way the prophecy was to be fulfilled? Who is to say that what we did was wrong?
I am. I will not let this fraud continue.
And it goes a bit Blade Runner at this point, doesn't it?
It does a bit, yes.
We gave you memories of Kahless. He's a replicant.
Yes.
Do Klingons dream of electric Targs? That's what we want to know.
I love that Worf calls him a fungus.
We're grown.
And then he gets told, don't tell Gowron or the fungus will cry.
Yeah, it's like, think of his feelings. Poor Kahless.
Oh, poor ickle Kahless the fungus.
Oh dear.
And then you've got Data speaking to Worf, saying he once had a crisis of spirit. He didn't think he could ever be more than just a machine, but he made a leap of faith. Oh.
Oh god, now I've got Enterprise's theme tune going around my head.
'Cause I've got faith of the heart, going where my heart will take me. I've got faith to believe I can do anything.
Faith in my heart.
Oh no!
Oh, that's not right.
Oh dear.
No.
Bloody Data.
Yes. Anyway. So you end up Worf proposing effectively a caliphate.
Constitutional monarchy, no less.
Well, yeah, except the Queen isn't technically our religious leader. A caliphate is a closer approximation.
Okay, yeah, she's head of the church, but not
Actually,
the religious figure. Yes.
No. Whereas the caliphate,
Oh,
I was
yeah.
thinking of the Ottoman Empire.
Okay.
That's effectively what he's proposing.
Cunning. I mean, this scene is like momentous, ought to be momentous anyway, in Klingon history.
Yes.
Where does it take place? The fucking conference room, which rather deflates any drama out of the event.
Yeah, I know.
So you've got this whole new constitutional setup for the Klingon Empire. Will we ever hear of Kahless again? Don't think we do, sadly.
No, we do at least once in Deep Space Nine.
Do we? Oh, excellent.
In a throwaway line.
All right, okay. I shall look forward to that, because it was like, did this ever pay off again? I don't think it did. But apparently it does. Great. Super.
Yeah, but it should have been more than a throwaway line.
Yes,
though.
I for one look forward to the Emperor's Christmas broadcast anyway. Sit round the telly every year.
And then you have a whole load of deleted scenes.
There are a lot of deleted scenes for this story, yes.
Yes, I wanted them to hurry up because I needed a wee.
She was climbing the walls needing a pee. It was very amusing. There's another one! Oh no! And I made her sit through them all. Completist that I am. Yeah. I mean, a lot of them, as is often the case, you didn't need to see. There was one really good one. Tell us about the good one, Bea.
The one with Kahless and Worf in the quarters, and he gets the knife out. And he mentions Alexander.
Yes, it's nice to have a mention of Alexander. It's a shame that was cut, for starters.
And he talks about how Worf has managed to be a Klingon amongst aliens.
Yeah, there's a whole section about how, Worf is well respected by other Klingons as well for maintaining his Klingon identity, which is such a change from what you normally get, which is, everybody looking down their nose at him. It's just a reflection of the fact that what happened in reunification and stuff like that. Yeah. It's a lovely scene. It's a shame it's not in the final episode, but again, it's yet another talky scene, so maybe...
It's talky, but it's one of those things, it's not necessary to have included it, but it would have been nice.
Yes, there was a lot of tie-ins. It was quite sweet, yeah.
But the other one, although I can understand why they cut it, it just made me smile, is you get this extra little bit when Worf comes in and he's dissing Kahless, that he's talking to the others, and Kahless then appears and effectively turns around to Koloff and goes, "Go away."
Yeah, and that basically says to Koloff and his curator, whoever he's supposed to be, oh, they talk like hens or something like that.
Yes,
it's quite funny.
Go away, I've had enough. And then it made us laugh when he was talking about, there are many things I have forgotten. And we went, my keys, my glasses. And I thought, half my passwords.
Yes, indeed.
And there's also a mispronunciation from Koloff of Klingon. Which is Klingon.
That's a big mistake. If you're going to play a Klingon, at least pronounce Klingon right. Yes.
Yes.
So all in all, it's okay. It could have been a lot better, I think. It is too talky. Michael Dorn's very good in it, though.
Yes, he is.
And as is Robert O'Reilly as Garon.
Oh, but he always is.
He really, really makes this story work. He's wonderful. He does Contempt like nobody else.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's a shame. This is his last appearance in Next Generation. We've got a whole season to go yet, but this is Garon's last appearance, which seems wrong somehow.
Well, he does come up in Deep Space Nine, but not for a long time.
He does, yes. We will have to wait till season 4 for him to turn up, and then he'll be in it quite a lot, which is great.
Oh, yeah, but you get the awesome lines, though.
Yes.
Glory to you and your house.
I think of Garon. I do tend to think of Deep Space Nine for that reason.
Yes, to be fair.
But, I mean, that's Next Generation dropping the ball as far as I'm concerned, because he should have been in Season 7 at least once.
Yes, he should have
because he's been such a big bit of the series, it's a wonderful reoccurring character ever since Series 4. Series 4 or Season 3 even, maybe. But anyway, he's been really good.
It was really early. No, it was earlier than that, because wasn't he... He was in the one where Kahless died.
Yeah, he was.
Just made 2 or 3.
Was it 2? Yeah,
so it's
season 3.
Oh, well. Anyway, the point is, for a long time, he was a recurring character.
Yeah.
And he should have been in it more. He really should.
Yeah.
I think for me, I would have wanted to have seen more repercussions of the fact that they've totally changed the setup of the way Klingons are governed.
Yes.
It's too talky. And that setup scene, that just screams setup, I think could have been played a lot more subtly, so that it was something that you looked back on and went, but at the first time you watched it, you didn't necessarily pick up. And you've got to play it really tenuously to understand how come he knows about Worf's vision as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that I like the idea. I think it could have been executed better.
Yes, it could have been. It was okay, but it could have been much better than it was. Definitely, I agree with that. Okay, let's find out what other people think. Which literally, you may have heard the ping. I had an email come in from our friend Cheeky Monkey Jin.
Hello, Cheeky Monkey Jin.
Who wishes us a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And have a Merry Christmas, sir, as well.
Yes. Merry Kahlessmas.
The Kahlessmas. Yes, I would like to provide some feedback on the feedback from the last bOrgCast, which is quite surreal.
Okay.
You had an audio message from Darren, was his name?
Shane.
Did you notice they spoke either from the right or left earpiece speaker? Yes, I'd noticed that as well.
Yes.
And I could not fix it for the want of me, so... But it did sound kind of surreal. This took me right back to my childhood, he continues, in the 70s and my treasured Muppet Show LP. It goes on to describe Darren and Shane as being Stoller Waldorf, which I think is a bit hard. I used the same audio effect apparently in his LP, and it works really well. So yeah, okay. Shane and Darren, next time you feedback, I want you to do Stoltler and Waldorf voices, please.
Yes. What do we think of it? Rubbish!
Anyway, I believe this is a Star Trek podcast, so I better cease my name prattling and let you get on with it. Take care, cheeky monkey gin. Brackets, overindulged over the festive period. He's getting started early, isn't he? Blimey. So, happy Christmas to you, sir.
Happy
and well done
Christmas.
for literally just getting in the deadline.
Wow, yes.
Okay, we also, of course, have heard from our friend, the Pie Man.
Hello, Orcs. Parry here to talk about Rightful Heir. This is a bit of a weird episode for me. On one hand, we get some lovely Klingon lore. Lots of big stories of Kahless doing great deeds and bits of Klingon wisdom, like don't stand outside in a storm, you nitty. And there is an interesting part to this. For Star Trek, it's actually a very good look at faith. Normally when you have blind faith, particularly religious faith, let's face it, normally this episode would be Worf thinks Kahless has come back from Sto-vo-kor, turns out to be a clone, Worf decides that reason and atheism are the best. Whereas in fact here it is a bit different, where there are actual discussions of faith and to an extent moral guidance and that sort of thing. In essence, this is pointing out the importance of religion, or at least that religion has a place, which for Star Trek is actually quite unusual. In the end, Worf obviously latches on to Kahless. This is actually quite an interesting part from Worf's arc, which I've been noticing this time round, that Worf has this idealised view of Klingons, and Gowron isn't it. And in fact, most of the Empire isn't it. I think we've discussed it before, that Worf has this idealised view of Klingons and the Empire is not like it, and in many ways Kahless represents that. Whereas, but obviously he's not going to follow a false symbol, but he does see the importance of having this symbol, which, for the Klingons, for their faith and for their culture, which, like I say, for Star Trek, normally this would be a, look, he's a clone, it's not, religions are all bunkum, but this one actually does show that there's importance, which is interesting. The problem is the episode doesn't quite hold together. It wasn't bad again, I just felt that it was slightly less than some of its parts. But on the other hand, it did cover some interesting ground about faith, particularly Data's sort of piece on, to an extent, mechanical faith, and there was some interesting Klingon stuff in it. And like I say, I think the Klingon stuff's always got a bit of good mileage because we usually get some decent actors in it. A guy who plays Gowron and whatnot. But in general, it didn't hold my attention as much, which is a bit of a shame because it contains some good stuff. So it's a bit of a shame that an episode with so much sort of interesting elements to it doesn't actually hold your attention as much. Like I say, I think it is very much an issue of being less than the sum of its parts. But again, not awful. It's not one you resent. It's not like you're sitting going, oh god, the Klingon stuff, the wheels are coming off now. It's an okay episode. It's fairly, like I say, again, not one of the ones that you'd reach out and grab, but I don't find it objectionable. But at the same time, it's maybe not. I think it's more one that you could write essays about than actually enjoy watching, which isn't damning with faint praise, it's just a different sort of episode. So I will be back shortly to talk about Duet. Until then, bye for now.
Pie Man has just reminded me, I did write an essay about this episode.
Really?
Yeah, when I was at Vicar Training College. Remember I was doing that course on bioethics?
Yes.
Yeah, and I did that presentation where I showed a scene from this, and there were some huge questions about whether if you could clone Jesus, would he still be Jesus? And I completely forgotten I'd done that. Yeah, I would completely agree. This is less than the sum of its parts, and I
Yeah.
think the main problem with it is too damn talky, which
Yep.
is always too many scenes in the conference room, always deadly, deadly, deadly when it comes to Next Generation. And when they do suddenly fight, it's like, yes, finally some action. Yeah, an interesting point about the fact that Faith isn't completely dismissed here, and Worf sort of holds an interesting line by the end of it. It has that final scene with Kahless, and Kahless basically says you don't have to believe in, that Kahless will return, but if you follow his ways, then surely Kahless is a powerful thing to believe in still, which is a lovely sort of 70s theology line.
Actually, it comes from C.S. Lewis.
Oh, right, is that C.S. Lewis thing, is that? Oh.
Yeah, from a character that we've just watched The Lion and the Witch in the Wardrobe, so I can only think either it's not in the TV series or it's one of the other ones we haven't got to yet. A character called Puddleglum.
All right. No, it's been too long since I've seen this.
Well, anyway, in that case, it's believe about Aslan, but you could literally replace Aslan with Kahless.
Yep.
And have pretty much the same quote.
Okay. Yeah, so, that idea that you can effectively follow the man's teachings, but not necessarily have to believe that A, he was supernatural, B, he will come again. So quite interesting sort of echoes of that, yeah. Okay, well, thank you for that, sir. That's really cool. It's made me laugh as well.
Yeah.
Right, let's find out what Drew and Tracy made of this one.
Hello, this is our feedback for Star Trek Next Generation episode Rightful Heir. There was not a lot of Picard interaction in this episode, but let me tell you how it makes me love him even more, because he's just such a bloody good man. He's responsible for the crew to the Federation, but he understands, he feels the heart of his crew, and he's just like, Worf, I'm going to kick your ass, but you need to go off and do what you need to do, and I'm going to support you. He's a dude. I love Picard.
When he was giving Worf a right dressing down.
Absolutely.
Just like, if that was like a Deanna or something, he would not have been that harsh. But I just wonder if he was being a bit like this. I know he's like, I don't want to do this. I'm your friend.
No,
but you've got to treat a Klingon harshly.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, he won't respect him.
That's the only way they know
So
it.
he went in and he was like, do your job. Where you're at.
Absolutely, but just go and do what you need to do and come back.
But after I've finished giving you dressing down, just take 10 days off.
Exactly. Thank you. So, Worf is really high maintenance, isn't he? He's sitting around the bloody campfire a bit like...
I tell you what was high maintenance, all that hair. I mean, God, they're meant to be warriors. They have got the loveliest hair I've ever seen.
Let me tell you, they are crimping and perming.
They are crimping.
Every day.
Anyhow,
yeah, so, Worf is really high maintenance, isn't he? So he kind of goes off and he's
the most
so
high maintenance.
Desperate to kind of see Kahless, and he's sitting around his little...
campfire.
Yeah, a little campfire. Reminded me a little bit of Poltergeist, waiting for the spirits to come up and stuff like that.
Don't start on the Poltergeist
references
game.
It is references, but, and he's like, he's not appearing to me! Whatever! And then all of a sudden he kind of turns up and he's like, I see you! And it's like, alright. And then, he's waiting for this guy to appear. He wants to feel noble. He's got this guy appearing to him, and then he wants to fucking fight him.
He's the worst person really to appear in front of, and I'm not surprised Kahless latched onto him, because he was the biggest doubter of all. When he went and got his tricorder.
Well, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm a Klingon, but I have the Federation.
So at the end, when Worf was sort of saying to Gowron, he was saying this is what I think you should do. We should have him as the Emperor of the Empire.
Dun, 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 dun,
not that Empire.
But it is bloody... Oh, every time they kept saying Emperor and Empire, all I could think of was bloody Star Wars.
Yes, I know. But, Worf is he's like, I've got this great idea, we should do this, do that. I'm just like... he's not even brought up on Kronos, and they're just letting him completely establish the political kind of setup.
Do they not, in theory, think that Worf is a little bit of a traitor because he's kind of joined the Federation and not gone for the
exactly? That's
Klingons?
what I mean. So he's saying to him, this is how you should do all of your politicalness, and have this emperor, but he hasn't got any power in that. He's like some French guy coming into the British.
All I can think of is Star Wars.
He's like some French guy coming in and saying, I tell you what, you should do this, and
You'd be like, bollocks.
Exactly. when Gowron and Worf bowed down to the clone of Kahless at the end, they would not do that. I mean, I'm sorry, Klingons are all about honour and all that lot.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way that they would go like, oh yeah, he's a clone, but we realise he's in a good position, so we're going to bow down to it. They would just be like, you know what, I'm just going to stick this batleth in your head. So, after that quick phone call...
Thanks, Mum. What did you think of it? I wasn't quite sure. I kind of liked it. You were a bit like, no, it wasn't kind of the best.
I just thought... I didn't enjoy it very much. I don't think it's rubbish, but I was like... I ain't really got any interest in
Yeah,
it.
a little bit. It was one of these episodes where I was kind of like, oh, what else is going on in
I know, I did have to
room,
keep
you know.
going to you, pay attention.
I know. Well, it's what it is. It's okay. It's another one done.
It's okay, but it's nothing special.
Nothing.
A bit boring. It's alright.
Next one, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. I like the phone call. That was very amusing. So apparently some Klingons do still keep the faith, despite the fact that he's been exposed as a fraud, because you've got those two guys that all bowed down in the holodeck.
Yeah.
So there's something very weird going on here, isn't there, that they're capable of holding the fact that this isn't actually Kahless on the one hand, with the fact that somehow they think he is. I don't know, it's weird, but there you are. The crimping and the perming, yes, definitely. Yeah. There's an awful lot of crimping and the perming in this. the hair, man. And feel the Picard love as well.
Yeah.
Yes, he's not in the episode much, but the scenes he is in, he stamps his presence on it, doesn't he? So.
Actually, what you said about Picard made me think if this was Jellicoe, Worf would just be out on his arse.
Yeah, he would. That's it. Fuck off. You're out of there. Clean out the latrines. Okay. Let's find out what our good friend Wayne makes of this. I understand this isn't a walking recording, but Merlin is involved in some way, so let's find out.
Hello Orgs, slight change of tack. Wayne and Merlin here, sat in front of the fire with some mulled wine and mince pies, because frankly, only a fool would go out in that madness. So then, Rightful Heir. A Worf episode and a Klingon episode, and what a cracking Klingon episode. I love this to bits. I couldn't actually remember anything about it. I vaguely remembered that Kahless shows up in one episode, but I couldn't remember what the premise was. So it was nice to be able to watch this without knowing what was going to happen. I was quite surprised that they had a sequel in the same season as well. Normally if you get a sequel to an episode, it's usually the following season, or with Ship in a Bottle a couple of seasons later. Now by all accounts, I read in the Next Generation Companion that this was heavily inspired by Jurassic Park, the idea of cloning life from DNA extracted from ancient cells. But the whole thing played out to me as a sort of potted look at what would actually happen if, for example, King Arthur did return, or Jesus for that matter. The idea that they wouldn't just be universally accepted, there would be skeptics, there would be tests and questions, there would be political factions, people whose interests are threatened by these legends suddenly coming to life. And it was quite interesting to see how it played out. And I was particularly pleased there was no reset button, which was really cool. I fully expected him to kind of start degrading or something and die at the end, and the whole thing was just left back where we started. But the idea that he hung around as a sort of Klingon pope is quite an interesting idea. I can't remember if they actually follow it up in season 7 or DS9 or anything at all. I mean, I'd imagine there's probably a novel or something, or a comic book that features him. But yeah, great episode, great Worf episode, great Klingon episode, and I mean, it's great to see Tony Todd as Gowron again as well. It's always fun to see him on screen. A couple of notes I made. There were a lot of extras in this episode. A lot of security guards, a lot of Klingons walking around in the background. I particularly noticed at the start on the bridge, Riker arrived for the morning shift, and pretty much half of the crew of the Enterprise get off the lift with him, which was unnecessary, but a nice touch. It just made it feel busy. Usually the budget goes on spaceships and sets and guest stars, and there isn't really enough money left to have crew wandering about the place. The other thing that made me think was, is Kahless the reason that Klingons developed spaceflight? Because the Klingon legend has it that he told them to find him at that point of light, and apparently pointed to a star in the sky. Is that the reason that Klingons developed spaceflight? 'Cause I've always found it hard to believe that Klingons as this sort of Viking warrior class that look sort of frown upon scientists. How on earth did they ever develop warp drive? And the idea that it might have been a religious motivation makes some sense, I guess. It's an interesting notion anyway. It also suggests that they knew that stars were more than just points of light in the sky. They were a destination that could be travelled to, which was an interesting notion. And finally, it was interesting to see the legend of how the bat'leth was made. My own bat'leth wasn't actually forged from a lock of my hair. It was forged from MDF and Halford silver paint, but it's close enough. So there we are. Yes, Rightful Heir. I absolutely love this episode. It's cracking. So from me and Merlin, we'll talk to you in a bit about this week's Deep Space Nine episode. Bye.
Bye.
Ah, yes. Okay. Well, nice to hear you got your own bat'leth as well. Jealous, indeed. Vikings actually were great sailors for their time. Yep. Interestingly. So there's something about being a warrior nation that does lead to the development of methods of transportation, so you can crush the skulls of people who live a bit further away, basically. Yes.
Because it was Vikings who discovered America originally.
Apparently, yes.
I am descended from the very man.
The very man.
Leif Erikson, who discovered America.
I thought you were going to say Kahless then. I thought that explains your forehead. Anyway. Yeah, the fact you've got Viking blood in you explains a lot. Yeah, this isn't Tony Todd, it's Robert O'Reilly. You'll have to wait for Deep Space Nine to see Tony Todd.
Tony Todd's Kern.
Yes, amongst other things, yes. And you're quite right, there's no reset button in this episode, which it's an unusual payoff.
That's true, yes.
Which does add to the quality of the episode, definitely. But unfortunately, there aren't many in the way of ramifications.
And there should be.
There should be, definitely, but there we go. And yes, the whole idea of Jurassic Wharf and using DNA to create stuff, that was what they had in mind. Very good. Splendid. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I think it's time for us to move on to our rather different episode of Deep Space Nine. We've had our very seasonal Christmassy Kahless episode. Now,
why is it seasonal?
I don't know.
Wearing white and look like Santa.
Look like Santa. I felt the Christmas spirit alive and kicking, and I think it's going to get trampled on now by duets. If my first viewing was anything to go by. So hold on to your seasonal spirit, folks. There will be a lovely seasonal ending to this episode, courtesy of the Pie Man, but we'll get to that in good time.
Yes.
They say he butchered thousands.
He commanded a forced labor camp.
Now millions cry for justice.
Let me know when you hang the Cardassian.
But only one will stand against him.
Look at the hate in her eyes.
The war is over.
How many Cardassians did you kill?
We had no choice.
But Kira's battle has just begun.
He was there. He did it.
On the next episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Oh my giddy aunt, that trailer.
Well, first of all, it earwormed me because she went, "The war is over," and I went,
But then it showed the murder of the Cardassian right at the end. Oh, fuck's sake.
Do you understand the concept of spoilers?
Clearly not.
Oh, bloody hell.
Which is a shame, because this is a fantastic episode of Deep Space Nine.
Really
it goes
good.
without saying. It opens with a nice little exchange between Kira and Dax about childhood misdemeanours.
Yes.
Which builds up a nice relationship between the two of them, which carries on throughout the whole of the series, from what I remember.
Yeah, but I also like and which you were we talking about? I just like that, they're the crew are trying to grapple with the idea that Dax has multiple personalities, not because there's anything wrong with her, but because she's had multiple lives.
Yep. Then we hear the Koberian freighter Rachmunis, which is a great name, requests...
It makes me think of Burning Rasmussen.
All right. It requests permission to dock. Now, our Koberian, it's not a bad makeup job. It does look like a modified version of the Dopterians that we saw earlier.
Yes.
The Ferengi cousins. And we will see more Koberians later on in the series.
That.
Yeah. Sadly, we don't get to see the freighter itself, though, so there's no anal about spaceships this week. Aboo! The Koberian captain is played by a chap called Norman Large, who was last seen in Unification as Proconsul Miral, and will return in Season 7 Next Gen's Dark Page.
Oh, okay.
They have a passenger on board who's suffering from Kahless syndrome, which sounds a bit like the norovirus, but isn't. They beam him straight to sickbay anyway. Kira's ears prick up straight away because Kahless was caused by an explosion in a Bajoran labour camp that she helped to liberate, called Galatep. This is our first mention of Galatep. We'll get plenty more.
Again, doesn't it?
Yep. Unbelievably, in the awful Deep Space Nine book I finally finished reading, literally took me 6 months to read it, was that bad.
Oh dear.
It was written by Armin Shimmerman, co-written by Armin Shimmerman. I kind of hope he didn't have much input, really. I mean, the other Deep Space Nine book I'd read, which
Stitch
was
in Time,
Stitch in Time, Badger
awesome.
Robinson, brilliant.
I've
Best
read
Trek
one
novel
other.
ever.
It's a Dax one.
Mhm.
And I can't remember what it's called.
Yes, there was a Many Lives of Dax one, wasn't there? Yes,
Yeah, that was really good.
Yes, I'm sorry I got rid of that one. But yeah, anyway, this Quark one is awful. Absolutely awful. And at one point, he and Rom are held in the Galatep concentration camp by Bajorans. Everybody acts completely out of character. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. Anyway. Kira thinks that this may be a noble survivor from Galatep, but upon seeing it's a Cardassian, she calls upon Odo. Teaser. Kira accuses Bashir's patient of being a war criminal, and he makes a very slow run,
it's pathetic.
lumbering run for it. I've never seen anybody run away so slowly. And he ends up straight in Odo's arms. He claims his name is Maritza. Now, he's played by Harris Yulin, which is a great name. He's been in a lot of films and TV. Do you recognise him at all?
No, because he's under a lot of Cardassian
He is under a lot of Cardassian makeup, fair enough. But he's probably most recognisable role for us anyway is in Ghostbusters 2. He plays the judge.
Really?
Yes. He throws the book at the Ghostbusters. He's also a character in Bean,
Okay.
which we've seen a few times thanks to the Sprogs. And he appeared with Kevin Conway, who was Kahless, in Looking for Richard. Yes. Which was a, what's the...
No, now you fucking earworm with ABC's Looking for Linda.
No. This is, what's his name, who's in the Godfather films?
Al Pacino?
Al Pacino. Thank you for saving me. How could I not remember Al Pacino's name? Answer, it's Christmas Eve, and I've now had a lot to drink.
Not as much as me. I remembered the name.
Yes, he appeared in Looking for Richard with Al Pacino, and has a reoccurring role also in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Does he? Which character?
He's one of the Watcher Council. We never got that far, I don't think.
No, I did.
You
didn't.
I gave up by then, yeah. Anyway, it turns out that Maritza isn't on the list of any war criminals, so Sisko is understandably very peeved at Kira for throwing him straight in the brig. She explains his condition proves he was at Galatep, which is clearly meant to make us think of Auschwitz. There's a great shot of Sisko walking from Odo's office and appearing on the security monitor.
He's nice shot.
In Maritza's cell, which makes the station feel like a real place. It's really good. It's wonderfully directed, this.
Yeah.
The Cardassian claims not to have Kahless or to have been on Beta at all, and just to have been a military file clerk. Another prisoner comes round from a drunken stupor who's a Bajoran called Kanon, and he's not happy to be sharing the brig with a Cardi. He's played by Tony Rizzoli, who was a guard in the less than awesome Season 1 Babylon 5 story, Infection.
Oh dear.
Yes. Bashir confirms Maritza does indeed have Kahless and must have been a Galatep.
I like that, Bashir's tests back up.
Yeah, he keeps being called upon to provide evidence in this, and he does his bit. It's great. Then the commander gets a call from Bajoran Justice Minister Koval. It's never good news when Bajoran ministers call. Sisko is not happy with having to hold Maritza, but clearly the Bajorans will stop at nothing to have him. He goes to see Kira, asking that Odo handles the investigation. He wants it established that Maritza is a criminal before handing him over to the Bajorans.
Now, I like it that Sisko is proposing Odo.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like he's already trying to meet her halfway. He's not saying, let Starfleet handle this.
Yeah.
I like that he proposes Odo.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she turns round and says, look, you said we were friends, I give you my word as first officer, he says, okay. I really like this scene, and the whole way that it all works is that already...
In one sense it's really nice and sweet, in another sense, emotional pressure much.
Yeah.
If you're my friend, you'll let me do this.
No, but she says, I give you my word at first officer, and he could call her back on that.
He could, yeah.
And
She also does it. She says she's doing it on behalf of the Bajorans who didn't make it out of Galatep as well. So
yeah, I mean, you could argue emotional blackmail, but on the other hand, you understand where she's coming from. But
ultimately, Sisko places his trust in his first officer, which is nice, particularly for the end of the first season. Particularly considering what happened in the story before, when they're all at each other's necks.
Yeah, I mean, I like that, but I also like she's given her word, and I think it would be wrong of him to go no. You know,
exactly.
It's right that he says, fine, that's what she's done. Mm-hmm. And if she didn't do the right thing, he could call her on it.
Yeah. Odo's already started a background investigation. So far, Maritza's story of who he is and where he's been checks out. She confronts him with the fact that he does have Kalanora. And he confirms he was there, but as a filing clerk, who knew nothing of the torture there. He claims its commander, Gul Dahil, started the rumours of atrocities himself to keep Bajorans afraid, and accuses her of not wanting the truth, but vengeance. Gul Dukat is on the telephone! Hooray! Finally, Gul Dukat has returned! Hooray!
Gul Dukat on Skype.
Yeah, for the first time since the pilot. I thought it was in the first series a lot more than this.
I did as well!
But then you think that about Garak too, don't you?
True.
Yeah. He's complaining about a Cardassian citizen being held without charge, and the Federation not trusting them. Sisko replies they don't trust Maritza because he's already lied about being at Galatep. The commander needs to know who he's holding. Dukat threatens Sisko, holding him responsible for Maritza's safety. Oh dear. Dax challenges Kira over her vengeful feelings about the Cardassians, which is a nice scene.
Something there which I liked. In the exchange between Dukat and Sisko, you have Dukat referring to, the way the Federation behaving as distasteful. And I like the fact that Sisko says, I suppose, if you're Bajoran, so is the occupation.
Mm-hmm, true.
And I did like that as a comeback.
The Chief, in his only scene in this episode, is being assisted with getting archive information from Galatep by a Bajoran named Neela. She's the replacement for Anara, who was in The Forsaken, and apparently the actress didn't work out or something. Neela will return in our next Deep Space Nine episode. They find an image from the work camp, but it turns out their prisoner isn't Maritza, but Gul Dahil himself.
I do like the way all of that plays out.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's well directed, that particular scene.
The whole episode is very well directed.
No, true, but for me that stood out as something that could have been directed badly and wasn't. Does that make sense?
Dahil taunts Kira about the Bajoran surrender, and Kar's resistance cell gets its first mention.
Yep.
First of many, believe me. Full of pride, he claims he was a magnificent leader. It's certainly an amazing performance. He's really good.
It is. Actually, when he's doing that at the time, and then she turns around to him and says, I hope you'll say that in front of the tribunal. I'm thinking, aren't you recording this? Shouldn't you be recording the conversations that are happening in the cells?
True enough. Odo sympathises with Kira's pain and anger, but asks how Dahil knew that she was in the Shakar resistance cell. After all, it wasn't part of his job description as being a camp commandant. Odo looks into who might have been digging into Kira's past. Dahil claims he saw her name on a report. And then, in a rather off-colour attempt at comedy, Quark, in his only scene, remarks on whether a group of the Galatep survivors that have assembled outside Odo's office might be interested in gambling, which is awful.
Really
Up till now,
bad.
even the worst Deep Space Nine episode has had a good Odo Quark scene. This is a really good episode that's really let down by appalling Odo Quark scene.
It's
like,
really
why?
bad.
Why would you do that?
And the thing is, initially, you think it's going to be a good scene because you've got these gaunt, ill-looking people.
With their faces covered, you assume they've been horribly,
one of whom looks
mangled.
like Morgan Freeman. But they're, gathering and they're supposed to be the survivors and you're kind of...
Comedy scene is not called for in this episode.
You're expecting something Shawshank,
Yeah, indeed.
Not comedy.
No.
It's like... Quark and comedy in this episode is wrong enough without the fact that you're kind of mentally prepared for something Shawshank-esque, and then it makes it worse.
Odo goes to Bashir to try and get medical info on Maritza, who he's discovered had been getting information about Kira. Then there's a great scene between Odo and Dukat.
Oh, it's awesome.
Where he tries to reminisce about games they used to play, and Odo points out the Gul cheated.
He said, we only played one game and you cheated.
He assures Odo that he attended Dahil's funeral and half of Cardassia viewed his body. As Odo points out, whoever they've got has told the most foolish lie ever, if that's the case.
I just love this scene. I love Golder cutting it.
Well, he's in 2 scenes. Both times he's only on a monitor, but his presence in the episode is amazing. It's
awesome.
like, you need to bring this guy back more often.
Yes, you do. It's just awesome. But Odo is awesome as well in these scenes.
Somehow Dahil has ended up interrogating Kira about the death she's caused in the Resistance, and Odo confirms to her that Cardassian wanted to be caught. He's discovered Dahil never had Kalindora, as he was on Cardassia at the time of the explosion, receiving the wonderfully named Proficient Service Medallion.
Which I said sounds like the McDonald's Employee of the Week.
It's basically, you tried. It's the You Tried medal, isn't it? Proficient Service Medallion. That's pathetic.
It's awful. It's like, I don't know, well done for taking part, isn't it? It's...
Yeah. Bashir arrives to say he's discovered the Cardassian has had cosmetic alteration as well. And the questioning from Kira Maritza breaks down, and it's a really, really, again,
awesome.
Amazing performance, strong scene.
I'm your nightmare. I'm the Butcher of Galatep.
The Butcher of Galatep died 6 years ago. You're Eamon Maritza, his filing clerk.
That's not true. I am alive. I will always be alive. It's Maritza who's dead. Maritza, who was good for nothing but cowering under his bunk and weeping like a woman. Who every night covered his ears because he couldn't bear to hear the screaming for mercy of the Bajorans. Covered my ears every night, but I couldn't bear to hear those horrible screams. You have no idea what it's like to be a coward. See these horrors and do nothing. Maritza's dead. He deserves to be dead.
Nana Visitor is brilliant in it as well. Kira sets him free, but he wants to be punished to get Cardassia to acknowledge its guilt. As plans go, it's not the best, because the whole of Cardassia knows that Gold Dahil is dead. So how is this guy claiming to be Gold Dahil being put on trial going to alter anything? It isn't, because they think he's dead. But never mind. As they're travelling through the promenade, our friend Kanon stabs Maritz in the back for just being a Cardassian, which, as Kira points out, is not a good enough reason.
But you think about episode 1, Kira, it would have been good enough.
Maybe.
It shows her arc.
She's been on a journey. Oh yes. Happy Christmas, everybody! Yes. I mean, it's a really, really strong episode, but heavy. I mean, it borrows from a 1967 play by Thomas Shaw called The Man in the Glass Booth, which is about a Jew accused of being a Nazi war criminal. So it's, it's strong stuff, but it's great that Deep Space Nine's able to explore this. It's a bottle show, would you believe? Because, of course, it's just based on standing sets, but it is a really, really strong bottle show.
Often the bottle shows are the best, though.
Quite often they work for the limitations really well, don't they? Yeah. So there we go. I think it's an incredibly strong story, even if not exactly filled with the Christmas spirit.
Yeah.
We have heard from our good friend Sampo.
And Sampo says, "Hello, Orgs. Hello. This is me giving feedback for Duet. And boy, was this a good one. I have to start by praising Harris Yulin, who plays Maritza.
Oh, yeah.
He did an absolutely brilliant job and was the highlight of an all-round good episode. Especially the scene where he finally broke down. It was heart-wrenching, which was quite an achievement, taking into account that for most of the episode he was playing a remorseless madman. The dialogues between Kira and Maritza are well written and acted, and are the backbone of the episode. The setup is a good one, getting several viewpoints into the Bajorian-Cardassian conflict. Of course, we have the description of the labour camp, which of course sounds a lot like a concentration camp, reminding us of how cruel the Cardassians were, because I'm pretty sure the portrayal of Dahil given by Maritza is an accurate one. On the other hand, we have a Cardassian who was so traumatised by the experience that he wants to do anything he can to bring about even a tiny speck of justice to the situation. It's a fitting reminder that the Cardassians are a species, not all evil.
Yep.
Something that's clearly often overlooked.
Yep.
Then we have the Bajoran government and Kira, who don't really seem to care if the person they're holding is guilty or not. Even though the evidence starts stacking up that everything is not as it seems, Kira simply chooses to ignore them. Cisco really should have put Odo in charge, because Kira clearly could not handle the investigation. She just wants Maritza to be guilty too much.
Well, yes and no, because in the end, actually, she's able to realise, when the evidence stacks up, that this is actually Maritza, and he is actually pretty innocent.
Yeah.
And she's able to set him free. So ultimately, Cisco's trust was well-founded. So it's really sweet.
Yeah. Good thing that Odo did investigating anyway. Now, that is true, because he did, didn't he? But presumably with
it's him that points out the fact that, how does he know you were in the Shakar resistance cell? And that plants the seed of doubt in her mind. But without Odo, you're right, she probably would have just strung him up.
And also, it was Odo who was able to talk to the Cup, wasn't it?
Yes.
In a way that Kira never would have been able to.
Yeah, no, Odo's really interesting in this episode, and this is something that'll come up again. The way in which, he worked for the Cardassians before. Now he's working for the Bajorans, and he's got a foot in both camps. Sounds like he's sympathetic with both of them, and that's not true, actually. But all he's interested in is justice.
Yes.
And that's what he's seeking in this particular case as well.
Yep. And Sampo continues, so just how did they get Darheel's face from that photo?
Yeah.
It was half behind another head.
I know that does stretch the imagination, that whole way that they reconstruct his face from behind
Not
somebody
really
else.
very plausible to just unblur it from there. Blade Runner all over again.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. It's funny how little things like that stick out in a show with transporters, phasers and warp speed.
Yes.
Is this only the second time we see Gold Cut this season?
It is shocking.
Guess so. He really didn't have much of a role even in this episode.
But the scenes he's in.
Oh,
he shines.
awesome. Yep.
I think this kind of sells him as, like, okay, we're going to bring him back a lot next time.
Yeah. The only thing I didn't care for in the episode was the ending. It was a neat enough story, Kira finally being able to let go of hating every Cardassian as a species, and there comes along some Bajoran arsehole to show the futility of it all. I guess it's a fittingly tragic end to a tragic story, but it still seemed a tad too forced.
I kind of agree, because they could have let him go. They could have let him walk off, and it still would have been an incredibly hard-hitting, touching episode.
Yeah,
you didn't need to stab him in the back at the end, actually.
No, I
But
agree.
hey.
Still, it doesn't reduce my enjoyment of this marvellous episode. So to summarise, I really liked it. And with that, I wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and wait for more Trek podcasting in 2015. Bye-bye, Sampo.
Merry Christmas, Sampo!
Merry Christmas! Happy New Year!
I look forward to hearing you in the new year when we've got one more episode of Deep Space Nine left, and then we start season 2.
Wow.
Okay, let's hear what Wayne thought of this episode.
Hello, Orgs. Once more, sat in front of my PC. It's not terrible out. I'll be taking Merlin for a walk in a bit, but I thought while I was sat here, I'd take the opportunity to use my PC and get a better sound quality for my feedback than if I were using 2 paper cups and a piece of string as usual. So then, with these episodes you are spoiling us, because this one was really good too. Very, very dark, but a really good episode, and quite a nice Kira episode as well. I mean, it's a no-brainer this was inspired by Nazi war criminal trials, and also a little bit of Holocaust denial as well. And the actor playing Maritza was terrific, really good. I guess the key difference though is that the Germans pretty much universally are ashamed of Nazis and their Nazi past, but the Cardassians are actually quite proud of their war leaders and tyrants and general ne'er-do-wells. It was nice to see Cisco walking that political tightrope that he needs to walk on a daily basis between the Bajorans and the Cardassians. I know it's been shown before, but this felt like a particularly serious issue with no ideal outcome, and just seeing how Cisco is forced to kind of balance these two things quite delicately is really interesting. It's really nice to see him doing that. The point at the end where Kira realizes that the dying Maritza is not a bad man just because he's a Cardassian. It wasn't exactly subtle, but it was really well played by Nana Visitor. A couple of observations. Why did Kira wait until she saw Maritza before calling Odo? I mean, she clearly seemed to suspect it was a Cardassian from that particular camp. Why didn't she grab Odo on the way down? But then, I guess maybe she was hoping it was actually a Bajoran survivor rather than a Cardassian. Maybe that was the kind of shock when she walked in. She wasn't expecting to see a Cardassian camp guard or a Bajoran survivor from the camp. I quite like the Blade Runner style photo that allowed you to see around corners, and might have been seen as unrealistic or even an error, a blooper as it were, at the time. But Given the advances in imaging technology over the last few decades, I don't see why not, really. It's just a super high-res 3D image. How long ago did the Cardassians leave Bajor, and how long was the actual occupation? I got the impression that they left just before DS9 starts, but Gul Dahil apparently died 6 years ago. I suppose if the occupation was decades long, then it's possible the camp was closed years before the occupation ended, or that someone took over from Dahil, something like that anyway. But there we go. Duet was absolutely terrific. I really enjoyed that. I would really like to see more of this in DS9. And I think there is a lot of political intrigue later on, if I remember correctly, but I can't remember if it's quite like this. We shall see, anyway. So there we go. So all that remains now is for myself and Merlin to wish a really Merry Christmas to the Organ tribe and all the bOrgCast listeners if they celebrate it. Although I guess by the time this gets edited and put out, I guess it'll all be over by the recycling. But have a great Christmas, a great holiday, and we'll see you in the new year. Bye now.
Bye. Happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Yes. Interesting. Drawing the parallels between the Cardassians and the Nazis, and in some ways more like sort of modern day Russia, really, which is in massive denial about the past. So actually, yes, we do have an analogue, and I think it's more like actually Russia, or at least the politicians in Russia, anyway. Thank you, sir. Yes, can't disagree with any of that. A splendid episode, wasn't it? Okay, let's find out what Drew and Tracy made of this one.
Hello. This is our feedback for Deep Space Nine episode Duet.
That's a bit of a feely one, wasn't it?
Yeah, there wasn't many funnies.
No, ain't got no funnies to make about that one tonight, I don't think. So when it first started, I thought, oh, here we go again. Here's Kira being a bit militant, over-egging it, you know, accusing someone of bleeding war crimes before they've even got through the door. And then it kind of evolved, and then I ended up feeling total empathy for her when it came out that it was Golda
Hill is the guy who's pretending
exactly.
to be, but it's Maritza.
You know, and he was being all, we did this, and yeah, you know, at one point
Genocide
I said to you, I wanted to give him a good thumping, you know, and actually felt empathy for Kira. But we knew there was an arc, didn't we? We was waiting for that arc.
Well, unfortunately, episodes like this, I'm always like, okay, wait for the twist.
Well, and it did come. Yeah, so all in all, for me, this episode was a total flip reverse.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I agree. I don't know, at the end, when she was just so sympathetic to him, and, you know, when she's walking him through the promenade back to his ship or whatever, I was just like, is that really what Kira would do? She was just like so, now I understand, you know, I'm sympathetic to you. Would she really be like that?
Why wouldn't she, though?
Because as you said, she's militant, isn't she?
She is militant, but she understands that revenge is not always the answer.
So she's got this real big empathy with Cardassians. I don't think she has.
No, but I don't know. I thought there was a bit of a positive message in there that...
Well, yeah.
It softened her, and she, you know, yeah.
And the stabbing at the end, that was like, you know... life lesson.
Well, yeah, I think that the introduction of that villain at the beginning, you kind of knew he was going to have some impact.
He's a baddie because he's drinking, isn't he?
Yeah.
So you know he's a baddie in America.
Exactly.
They don't like people who get drunk.
But I liked it. No, I thought it was a good episode. I enjoyed that. I was actually...
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. It's not many laughs, but yeah, it's enjoyable. It was good.
One of them episodes when I was actually hooked and I wasn't really writing a lot of feedback because I was really watching it and I was quite captured by it. So yes, a good Deep Space Nine episode for me.
Yeah. I agree as well.
Lovely. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Not many laughs sums it up quite nicely.
Not really.
I think the whole thing about her realising that vengeance wasn't the answer was kind of that stuff that was tying in with her conversation with Dax and with Odo as well. That's that sort of sense that, she got this primal instinct to try and get some vengeance, but she knows actually deep down that that's not going to feed her actually. And so for me, I could have done without him being stabbed in the back, definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
But the fact that she's happy with him at the end, I can actually live with fine. And the fact that it's not just one twist, but two twists, actually.
Yes, it is.
Initially, you've got this guy who's presenting himself as Maritza, who then you're told is Goldar Heel. And then, of course, turns out to be Maritza after all.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a double twist, which is quite nice. And yes, you do get quite a bit of empathy for Kira. You're on her side for quite a bit of it. And a bit of a feely one, I think, sums it up quite nicely, really. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's find out what Mr. Murray makes of this one.
Hello again, Parry here to talk about Duet. Now, this episode is interesting. Obviously, it takes rather a lot from the concept of survivors of concentration camps and the people who administered them, and indeed it is kind of interesting how this episode develops. One of the things from my memory, I thought it unfolded a lot more slowly than it actually does. It actually rattles along at a fair pace, which sadly means, to criticise the episode, Goldar Heel's kind of his collapse when he suddenly admits that no, he is just the filing clerk that they always thought that they worked out he was, happens rather quickly, whereas I'd have liked to have seen him worn down, but again, you've only got 45 minutes. But overall, it's a pretty good episode. You have this idea that there was a particularly bad work camp and many people died, and there's a specific condition that links people to it. Now, interestingly, it is the way Kira develops from it. Initially, she's willing, when she just thinks the Cardassian is the filing clerk, she's still willing to lock him up and send him for a war crime tribunal, probably to a death sentence, because he was a Cardassian who was there, regardless of the fact that all he was doing was keeping records. Again, this sort of idea of, is every Nazi in the concentration camp to be executed for war crimes, even the ones who just did admin? And so you get this, so it's quite a good episode. A lot of it is these two headers between Kira and, I can't remember the actual Cardassian name, but Goldar Heel, I'll call him. And it's the way he's trying to push for Goldar Heel to be tried for war crimes, for all that Goldar Heel is now dead, because he feels guilty. It's interesting because we see this other side to Cardassians. Most Cardassians we've seen so far have been military, and as a result, they've got no real qualms about what they did during the occupation. None of them feel guilt, none of them feel particularly bad about it, and in fact most of them probably think it's justified. And it's nice to see someone who was tortured by it. Okay, he was military, but he was a filing clerk, and someone who it has haunted, and indeed that not every Cardassian is a heartless, military-minded arsehole. So that, to me, worked out quite well. And yes, his guilt, he's turned himself into this man so that Cardassia has to address what it did at the camps. Meanwhile, of course, at the start, he's baiting Kira. He's trying to get her to snap and to push for this trial. And I'm sure if he hadn't been found out, he would be sitting there showboating about how awful the Cardassians were. It's a very good performance with the guy. It's got the bluster and push of these forceful personalities who do arise in regimes like that, and certainly Kira is she starts off so sure he's a war criminal, he's going to get tried, and as things go on, it sort of as things unfold, she starts to have second thoughts, and indeed that's at the end when he does get stabbed by the Bajoran drunk. And the drunk sort of says, he was a Cardassian, it's enough. And she's like, no, it isn't. It's some real character growth for Kira, who before was, look at it this way, in Dramatis Personae, before she even got alien whammied, she was willing to try and intern a whole ship just because it might be running guns. And I think this is character development, her getting to know and indeed finding out that not every Cardassian during the occupation was a heartless monster. So yeah, there's some really good stuff in this. I do wonder how much they took from things like the Nuremberg trials and that sort of thing of the Nazis that were doing. Obviously it is very much an allegory for the Nazi concentration camps and whatnot, and it is interestingly done. So yeah, overall I think this is a hint of what Deep Space Nine is to become. Obviously at this point this could just be a good episode. Next Generation did episodes like this as well that were equally good, and so at this point, if you were just watching for the first time, you wouldn't think it, but for hindsight, we know now that this is sort of where they were going with the series, and so yes, it's a very good episode. Like I say, maybe a bit off with its pacing, but I won't hold that against it. So all it remains for me to see is do keep up the good work. It's a very enjoyable podcast, which I'm enjoying. For now, Real, at this time, Merry Christmas to you and everyone involved and everyone out there. Bye for now.
Yeah, the only Next Gen episode that comes close to this, as far as I'm concerned, is Chain of Command, which tellingly is another Cardassian-based story as well. And yeah, this is very much going to set the tone for Deep Space Nine in many ways.
Yes.
Excellent performances all round, I think. Not just your man who plays Maritza, but also Nana Visitor as well.
Yeah,
it's excellent.
very good.
And as you say, it's good to see a Cardassian tortured by what his side did, and again we get a whole sort of three-dimensional portrayal of Cardassians. They're not all Nazis in space. There's actually some of them that feel guilty about what they've done as well.
It makes them a more believable species.
Yes. So thank you for that, sir, and a very messy Christmas to you and your family. Okay, well, let us look at what we'll be covering next time. A slight miscalculation on my part. I thought we'd done all our double Next Gen episodes, but it turns out we've got one more to go.
Oh, have we?
Yes, otherwise we'll run out of Deep Space Nine episodes, so it's unavoidable. Next time we shall be covering the Next Generation episodes, Second Chances.
Thomas Riker,
oh yes, which will pay out in a later Deep Space Nine episode as well, so it's a bit of a connection there. And also Timescape, which, beyond the freeze frame of Picard drawing a smiley face and a bunch of smoke, is all I remember about that. I mean, it's ubiquitous on the internet. That's easy for you to say.
It's one of those things that I'm not sure which episode it is out of about 5.
Exactly. Yes.
So, like, when I watch it, I'm sure I'll remember it.
Yeah, I'll go, it's that one. But up until this point, I'm not quite sure. So
Maybe
anyway.
neither.
Yeah. We shall be recording on Thursday the 8th of January. That's 2015,
Bloody
people.
hell.
Oh, yes. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year!
So there we go. And do very much value your feedback. It's been wonderful.
Please.
Really enjoy having the different perspectives on the episodes that we get.
Because it makes us think about different stuff.
Yes.
And it gives other voices other than just us two.
As she profoundly put it, yes. So
I'm not sure I can put anything profoundly after 5 pints.
Well, indeed. Well, Duet wasn't necessarily the most Christmassy of episodes, it has to be said. So we don't want to leave you on a downer. So here, thanks to our good friend Purry, is his dear son Donald singing a wonderful Christmas song for us. So we shall play out with this and have a very happy Christmas
and a happy New Year.
God bless, folks. Cheerio, bye.
Bye.
Santa on his way, always with a fine high day. Single bells that ring, so time to ring. So what's the better thing had the most fit to say? Single bell, we sing all we. All I find with the way is so to say. Oh, jingle bell, Single bell, it's a good we. All I find this is so to say. Oh, Merry Christmas.
The bOrgCast is brought to you by those awesome people at geekplanetonline.com.
And alcohol.
Any sound clips used are for illustrative purposes only, and no infringement of copyright is meant.